And I will just say, Steve, if you have any trouble hearing anybody, just text me and let me know. But I think the owl is picking up the sound pretty good. That's volume false TV.
Where's the mic that we?
Well, you can just talk and it's kind of
Okay,
swiveling.
okay,
That's it's called the owl.
yeah, very good. All right,
Yeah.
all right, let's, call to order. 6:33. Adoption of the agenda. Do we need to do a roll? I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's do a roll call. I'm sorry. Yeah, and do intros for the first time because it's a new venue.
Very good. Okay. Hi, I'm Samantha Wolf. I am the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, Oregon City.
Pete Walter, I'm staff to the Natural Resources Committee. Dave Troller on the Natural Resources Committee.
Brian Quisler, Vice Chair, Natural Resource Committee.
The Natural Resources Committee. Great, so we have 4 of our 5 members. We are a 7-member committee. We currently have 2 vacancies. And we have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, adoption of the agenda. Any rearranging or removing of items or to add items?
Yeah, let me know if you want me to open these up.
I have no items to add or remove or change. Or those are good. Okay. All right, approval of minutes. Do we have any questions or comments or edits for these minutes?
No.
Okay, and these are just for the record, 3 sets of minutes from 2021. April 14th, July 14th, and June 9th, 2021, and then also November 8th, 2023.
Hi.
You ready? We just did intro, so
Yeah, I'm Emily, committee member, I live in River Crest, walked over to the wrong building.
no worries. We need a formal motion?
Sure, we're just catch up to speed. We're in the approval of minutes segment. So there has no edits or changes or retractions for the minutes. That we're accepting motions.
I'll make a motion to approve all sets of announcements.
Make it a second.
Seconded.
Dave second. All right, all in favor of approving minutes? Give me a second. Motion passes.
Great.
Nice for me.
Yeah, welcome. This is the first NRC meeting here, so.
Yeah.
Next up. I had thought that somebody was gonna remote in, but they didn't. That was gonna be Dan Tooze. I spoke to him this morning. And he was out of town, but I said, you can still call. And he said he might, but he hasn't. And then I called and left Jerry Herman a message today to tell him that there was a meeting tonight because he wanted to come. And haven't heard from him.
Well, he sent me an email, so
Okay.
I can speak.
Okay.
Or give it during public comment, or should I raise it later? You just had him.
Okay, yeah, well, let's wait for communication. Okay. Great, yeah.
All right, no public comments. Old business.
Great. So, as you know, you guys did make recommendations, individually to me regarding Dan Tooze and Shannon Ehlerender's applications. And, we had a draw. And, there was delay in meetings, and we had various other communication breakdowns, but, the mayor requested that we revisit the recommendation and do it on the record formally now that we're back meeting, so that's all we're doing. And Shannon has withdrawn her application. She's been busy doing other stuff. And then Brian was the initial applicant. One of the initial applicants been reappointed. Congratulations. And Dan Toos, who we interviewed, I believe it was February. And you know, we have a recording of those interviews. I believe most of you have reviewed that recording as if you needed to. And we're just asking for your vote again, or your extension, whichever you prefer. So we're only talking about Dan Toos. So I'm not going to recap what he said, and you assume you take that as read.
Okay. Is there a point in the agenda where we raise that vote again, or is this the time to do it?
Now would be the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the way the committee manuals talks about board and committee appointments. It doesn't provide much guidance for the committee members. You know, it doesn't say that you have to provide a recommendation. It's kind of standard that we have, you know, because we rely on the expertise of the city members to evaluate future meetings. So, yeah, and the mayor would like that recommendation, or whatever recommendation. So that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is a public record anyway, so you don't feel like it has to be secret or anything. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do you want to do that?
We could just, need a motion about the recommendation for Dan Toos
Be appointed to
to
the
be
NRC.
appointed to the NRC, so just opening up the discussion. And then we'll vote.
And any questions you have?
Yeah, I'd just be curious to know, you said, Pete, that this is a draw. I'd be curious to know the reasoning for people who said no. I don't know if this is a forum for that or not.
Sure, it's fine, and you know, if they're comfortable explaining that, it's fine.
Well, those who voted, they state what their vote was, if they're comfortable doing so.
But you don't have to.
Yeah, if you're comfortable doing so.
I would say from voting, I didn't feel like got much information from him from the interview. And so to me, it was just like a lack of information. Like, I don't really feel like I know this candidate that they would be able to review. So I just stayed with it.
I voted yes because this is a volunteer committee and this is person willing to serve. We have empty seats, and there weren't for me any red flags that led me to think that this person would be harmful to the committee. So with somebody who's willing to show up and be thoughtful with us, my opinion was that we should let them.
Yeah, we have a fairly specific role as a committee. We're advisory to Planning Commission, City Commission, and PRAC officially in our bylaws. So, you know, that's kind of how committee's geared. The questions that we asked in the interview are geared towards the person's experience and interest in natural resource.
Anyone else comfortable sharing their thoughts? Well, I do want to mention that the email I got from Jerry Herman spoke about, is it Dan too?
Dan Toos.
Steve. Dan Toos, would anyone be interested in hearing about, I assume some folks might be familiar with Jerry Herman. Dave, are you familiar with Jerry Herman? Long time environmental natural resource advocate in Oregon City. he has his own nonprofit organization, works with youth, job training, doing restoration work. So, and he helped found the Environmental Learning Center at our community college. It's kind of a big, does a lot of work in this aspect. He's kind of deep entrenched in his nonprofit, so he's super busy, and he's not as young as he used to be.
Kind of a song.
What that means to say is he's not looking for more work to do. I mean, he maybe is, but not in his sphere, but he wants to work. Basically. So anyway, he recommends Dan's here. So, I would just be honest and say I was a little nervous about the engineers, not because of his potential, but because of his record of natural resource work, but because of his, he was on the record in protesting with firearms. That was made me nervous. And regardless of his politics or line, that was what made me most nervous about having someone serve in this role that has that background or that history is in the news, it's in the articles. So if you Google him, you'll learn about that. But I do want to be thoughtful about, we have a need of having more people in the RC. Should I disregard that, given his interest and his stated experience and Jerry Herman's advocacy? So I'm happy to hear your thoughts and probably.
I think those concerns are certainly fair as a person.
Yeah.
Also, I don't, in my mind, I would try and separate those concerns from the needs of this body and the city.
Yeah.
What do you thought about that
I
concern?
will tell you that lots of people that are supportive of natural resources are gun supporters too, and a lot of them are not. And I agree with you that those are really political concerns that I don't think should enter in our conversation.
Yeah, I think I felt a little bit with Emily. I felt like the passion he had, which was evident, was not so much directed towards natural resources, maybe towards other ongoing things in the city. And I'm happy to visit my stance. I think I didn't know obsession was an option. I guess that's probably what I would have done.
Yeah, I did feel like he didn't know what we did.
That was a concern. I think the way that the questions were phrased allowed for elaboration on his knowledge of what our committee does and not just natural resources in general. I feel like with a couple of the applicants that we've had over the years, there's just an interest in natural resources, but not specifically as it pertains to this committee. And I think having a sense of like what we can and cannot do and like where our jurisdiction is really important. And ultimately like we're an advisory committee. And so there's a lot that's not, kind of within our reach, especially it's like 60 people. I wish he spoke more. And I think we did ask those questions. It's not like those questions weren't available or like we missed something. But I think, like Brian, you talked a lot about in your interview, and of course you have an experience on this board, informs that, but, just a general awareness of like what we're doing, I think is really important, and an ability to like incorporate that knowledge, in a way that's productive in the capacity of like city government.
So do you remember his interviews when you guys were there? Do you recall what your perspective was in his statements or besides his interest?
No. My perspective is so simple-minded, and that this is a person who's shown enough interest.
I love
it.
Yeah, that's
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, factually, Dan, I remember he talked a lot about his family and their long history in Oregon City. He also has a property where the two's pond, so we talked about that
Mhm.
and how that's, and that it's within the rules for some of the.
I did not participate in these interviews. I know Dan, Tooze personally. He may have actually been a founding member of the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council for some time. I would have to abstain from any kind of vote. And there are reasons that I tell Pete about that I would rather not be in public. It had nothing to do with his involvement in natural resources. I just had a couple individuals that contacted me directly and they should have gone to this committee instead of receiving any comments directly to me. They should have come through the committee process. So, and I shared that with Pete, and so, and since I wasn't involved in the interviews, and I thought what I thought was some inappropriate commentary for a couple of people that I feel that wouldn't have been able to vote either way in terms of his inclusion. I mean, he was a valued member of the Natural Resource Committee, but that may not have been part of the interview. I hope so. I said actually, I meant Greater Oregon City Watershed Council.
Greater. Yeah.
So Sam, can I suggest or offer the idea that we just repeat the same kind of process that we did previously now that we've had this conversation? And then my thinking is after that, we'll either have a clear path, and if we don't have a clear path, then it's enough.
Yeah, you could call it, vote aye when they abstain. Just see here.
Okay, all right, well, can I put a motion to all vote? Is that?
Should we second that?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right,
So all those recommending approval of Dan Tooze's application to the NRC say aye. Aye. Record show that one vote for aye, one aye.
one eye.
All those opposed to the application of Dan Tooze to the NRC say nay. Nay. Okay, one vote no, and
Abstention.
abstentions.
I will vote to abstain.
3 abstentions, and so yeah. So we have a draw, and that is that piece of the agenda accomplished. Well done. I will notify the mayor of the vote. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Cool.
New business discussion item.
Great. So let's see. Does this come up? Sure, we can all read it. All right. So I took the text. I hope this was the right text. It was
It
the
looks
email.
good.
Yeah. Following text of the draft letter provided below was drafted and circulated to the NRC members on the 30th of April the 30th, 2024. And thank you for working on this. Appreciate it. Yes, we go ahead and discuss.
Sure. Did everyone get a chance to see this initial draft? And then it's kind of gone through.
I'm just noticing the typo. It says make a recommendations. I think it should be make recommendations or a recommendation.
In the first sentence.
Yeah, just
Okay.
I was revising this at like midnight. It's a long day.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can make edits.
Shall I read it?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. To the Oregon City Commission, the Natural Resources Committee has written this letter to the City Commission to provide input as to the city's current urban forestry codes and policies and make recommendations to address the loss of tree canopy. A healthy tree canopy goes beyond environmental benefits and extends to economic concerns, public health, community development, and more. Any questions as to the extent of benefits of urban canopy can be directed to members of the Natural Resources Committee, the Oregon Department of Forestry, or OSU Extension Office. In addition, the City Commission goal number 7, the OC 2040 community vision explicitly calls for supporting our extensive tree canopy. The justification for prioritizing this topic is not in question. The issues at hand involve what to do. First, to what extent understand and protect our current tree canopy? A public tree canopy assessment or inventory is essential. With this information, the city can determine realistic goals for how the tree's canopy should be managed. A realistic urban forestry plan developed with proper public input is the next logical step in the process. And from that plan, improved city code, policies, management, and resources for our urban tree canopy can be developed. Second, does the current code prioritize the preservation of mature trees? City code identifies a tree as a hazard, quote unquote, when a sidewalk is uplifted. It is important to note that hazard trees adhere to arboriculture industry safety standards that are rigorously studied and reviewed. Hazard tree is not a designation influenced by position of sidewalks, but are describing the health of the tree itself without consideration for possible mobility issues navigating around that tree. Current code allows adjacent property owners to remove large mature trees, street trees, in 3-foot planting strips within the right-of-way with minimal justification or consideration for alternative actions to maintain the tree. Older trees with substantial shade are frequently replaced with smaller species if mitigation occurs. When a mature street tree is removed due to sidewalk uplift, no mitigation occurs and the city has no opportunity to recoup the loss of canopy. Third, are there ways to change code to better protect tree canopy? To align city code with the city commission goal of increased canopy, the OC 2040 community vision and other city planning goals, the city's tree code requires key changes. The NRC has identified the following as ways to more closely align city code with long-term goals set forth through various means of public input. First, I think it renumbered it.
Number
So,
1, let's go.
we'll fix that. First, for 4-foot, would it be like A or 1? You know, first, for 4-foot strips and larger, compulsory replanting is recommended. Installation of low-growing shrubs or perennials, as suggested on the city website here, as that link, is recommended. Should replanting not be feasible for 3-foot and narrower strips. Second, if uplift from trees creates a non-compliant sidewalk that inhibits mobility, alternatives to removal including sidewalk repair, rerouting, and or prudent root pruning by a certified arborist should be among the first options explored. An adjusted sidewalk may be feasible at a lower cost than tree removal. A requirement to have a hazard report as well as a removal estimate could provide further insight as to the health of the tree and inform possible alternative solutions to removal. Third, if tree removal is unavoidable and mitigation is not possible, a higher fee in lieu to support planting efforts elsewhere in the city is recommended. A fee to remove a street tree provides more incentive for retention. With the income from fees for removing street trees, more funding can be allocated for tree plantings, improved maintenance, and compliance enforcement. 4, the city can improve its assessment by requiring tree risk assessments be performed by certified arborists only. To prevent a conflict of interest, the arborist should not be the same contractor hired in case of removal. This conflict underscores the importance of a city forester to objectively review removal requests and ensure all city trees are maintained properly and are not needlessly removed for financial gain. Best practices provided by the Arbor Day Foundation, the City of Milwaukee, West Lynn, and Portland provide examples of tree codes that place greater emphasis on tree preservation for public and private development. Pragmatic and successful tree canopy should be based on a clear understanding of what resources we currently have and where we want to go as a city. This boils down to the essential components of a sustainable urban forestry program and one that is integral to combating the effects of climate change.
I think that encapsulates much of what the intention was for that letter. There's polishing I could do. Any discussion or thoughts about it?
An adjusted sidewalk may be feasible at lower cost than tree removal. I think normally what would happen was, I think it's a great idea, but there's a couple of things. One of them is likelihood that the property owner will have to essentially vacate that portion of their own property, because usually the sidewalk is going to abut the owner's property. And so the sidewalk would have to come into the city's jurisdiction. So there's one loop that you have to jump through.
Yeah, there might need to be an public access easement onto the private property in order to meander a sidewalk around the tree.
That's okay with the property owner, then that's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if it's property owner who wants to keep the tree and they're willing to grant the easement, then it might be fairly straightforward.
The other thing associated with that, I got a problem with sidewalk and tree, but is that the roots come under the sidewalk, and it's probably going to be very, very close to the very close to the surface of the soil.
Yeah.
And they might end up having to trim the root in order to not that root continue on to the other base. Those are the two things that I thought of.
Right.
I've got a problem in that I got an uplift. Ground down very professional last year, and it's uplifted already again. And unfortunately, it's an ash. We'll probably lose it at one point in the future anyway, but that's something I gotta work through.
There is root pruning potential. So it's not zero root pruning at all for any diameter of root. So what's possible is when you uplift the sidewalk, you'd have an arborist evaluate it, and then anything greater than 2 inches would have to have authorization, basically. But they would assess it. They would be like, oh, I see where the roots are going. This is their relative diameter. And here we can cut here, and then they highlight everything that gets protected. And then that would be, but that would require oversight authorization.
Yeah, I mean, it does change the level of review, and it puts the emphasis back on the health of the tree to a certain extent, where you're actually evaluating whether the tree can withstand that pruning or not.
And then that would fall back onto if it's not retainable, because say it's like 5-inch roots all the way clear into the adjacent property of the yard, and then there's no way they can prune that, then and maintain compliance with mobility, then that would fall back to that third clause, like going into fee blue.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could be a requirement to have pruning permits. In the absence of a city forester, you could still have that level of review, I assume, right? You could say the arborist has to make that determination.
Yeah, they write in a report, they assessed the root structure, they've measured everything, and given city code requirements for mobility,
Yeah,
like they would have to be educated on that.
right, they need to,
Then they would then make their recommendation.
and the city code would have to change pretty considerably to provide the objective criteria for that. I would anticipate. Yeah, so that would be that'd be a necessary amendment to the public tree code. Yeah.
What is required for a certified arborist?
Certified, was that?
What is required for a certified arborist?
They have to pass the exam, basically. They have to have a certain number of hours of experience training. It can include, like hands-on training, so at least 3 years of hands-on training, being supervised, how an apprentice. They can swap out a couple of those years with higher education. So there's like urban forestry certifications one can get practice community management. And then that can qualify for a couple of those hands-on years experience. And then you need a certain number of hours. And then you need to submit all that to the International Society of Arborists, which is the certifying body. And they will approve you for even sitting for the exam. And then you have to take the exam. And Pete can help on the exam. And then if you pass the exam, then you have a license. That they decide. And you have to maintain that license for continuing education.
And there are successive certifications that you can do as you grow in more specialties. I think the point. Usually, often you'll see certified arborist and then certified tree risk assessor, which is a little different training.
Mm-hmm. And there's also like climbing arborists, which is another level of certification, and hazard tree risk assessment of hazards. And then there's a training or teaching master arborist. So there's different tracks that require more experience as you go, kind of like in karate where you get higher color belts. So yeah, and they all require continuing education and continuing experience. But for an arborist in this case, the certification doesn't cover Oregon City Code.
Right.
They would have to be educated on that in order to inform whatever authorizing permits would be required.
Yeah, and then if they're an ISA certified arborist, they're kind of bound by, best practices in the field of arboriculture and ethics. And then a standard of care, if they get into that level of detail, if you're actually talking about the health of the tree and your obligation to be professional in your assessment about that. So, you can't recommend it. You can't say that a tree is hazardous if you haven't gone through the procedures and standards accepted by the ISA. Yeah.
But they aren't looking at, they're not sidewalk.
They're not looking at.
They're not engineers.
They may, in their evaluation of a tree's condition, mention what a potential target is. If the tree were to fall, they may say that the target is infrastructure or that there is a infrastructure damage, which could include sidewalk, and that would be one of many, many other factors that they're looking at on their assessment form. Most assessments that are at that level, they call it, I think, a level 2 basic tree assessment, but that's the one where you're spending money. You're not spending money on an exhaustive root evaluation below ground. It's mostly done on aerial, just walking around the tree and looking at it, and looking at any parts that have fallen off the tree, looking at the bark, any foliage, if there is foliage, getting an overall feel for the tree's health.
Mm-hmm.
And then
But if they lift the sidewalk, then they can.
if they lift the sidewalk, they look at the roots, right? Yeah. they may charge more, they're gonna charge me. So, yeah. Yeah. An example, I heard today, a guy at work had a tree on their property in Johnson Creek watershed. So that tree is in an environmental overlay zone in the city of Portland and requires a hazard determination by a certified arborist if they're going to be exempt from land use review for that overlay. So it's like our natural resources overlay. So, and they spent $1,000 on a 10-page risk assessment for a pretty large Douglas fir that appears to have, fungus and roots, and is leading towards that. Yeah. Just an example. So, I think most reports of that typical nature are probably going to be somewhere between, I don't know, $200 to $1,000. Anyway, go back room. Yeah. But I think to your point, Doug, we'd have to think through what the code needs to say about roots and hazard conditions, and what is the city's going to require to evaluate the cause of the sidewalk lift, as well as potential for saving the tree, because that's the point of your recommendation. I don't think necessarily, well, I'll leave this question up to you. I'm not sure that needs to modify any of the language in your recommendation, but it is a concern.
Just like
We're not diving into the code.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, like, that context is really helpful. I think just knowing what's required, and what kind of education like an arborist would have coming into the situation. And I guess hearing that, I'm wondering if I don't know a lot about changing code, but is there like an easy way to put this on the website, like for landowners, like this is what happens, these are your options, and so like have it in layman terms. So you don't have to look at the code, and then have like a link, like, are you a resident with a sidewalk uplifted, or are you an arborist looking at a resident's home that has sidewalk uplift because of a tree, and then kind of just describe it like an average person and specific, and then the arborist one can be like with more technical language so that they know what to look for, and so that they're not having to spend and then charge the resident like their time for having to learn this kind of thing, or like familiarize themselves, and potentially having a directories that, having to start from scratch there.
Yeah, I mean, there is.
And they're not paying $1,000, so they're paying like $200, $300 instead of like $1,000, because also that'll help with retention.
Yeah, that's, I think kind of like what you're talking about is going to come on after any regulations or.
Yeah, and I don't know about the modifications to the code, like this specific.
No, I mean, that's.
You would need to, right? I mean,
The city commission has to direct staff to make those amendments.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at this point is you're making a recommendation to the city commission, and they have to kind of act on it and tell us to do it.
Yeah.
And at that point, we're starting a fairly extensive process of public outreach as well, because it's new. We've been regulating street trees a certain way for, go on 20 years, and people in the community have kind of an expectation about how the permitting is done here. And that's going to change if the commission decides that it should. And along with that is an obligation. Anytime we change code, that's going to affect the use of people's property or what they're responsible for. In this case, they're responsible for not only the tree abutting the property, but the infrastructure and sidewalk abutting their property as well. So, we probably design some public involvement process that captures a good stakeholder, a range of stakeholders, and move ahead. Yeah.
I remember there was like city assistance or grant for sidewalk replacement due to uplift. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I think they made it
How-
permanent. It's permanent.
so they actually would have some assistance with the city to do that.
It's a couple $100,000 a year grant program.
Is that like
You can, I believe you could get up to 1,000 per property potentially, because it would, like, what I heard anecdotally was it's about $250 dollars a panel, like a typical panel, like a, trail view that they had all the issues.
I think that sounds right, because I remember reading that it was like 100 something people got it, and the budget was like a little over 100 or something.
What's the source of those funds again? I'm sorry.
I think it's a general fund. Yeah, because it's through Public Works. But I don't know what meeting it was, but John Lewis said it had been made permanent. So every year that's available.
Do it specify what those funds can be applied to, or can it be like
Yes.
or
Yes.
just the sidewalk?
It's applicable to the site and the repair. It's very much geared to the site. Josh Wheeler, I think, presented a little bit on this.
Mhm.
I think it's like a 9-page application and what the limitations of the grant are. But it's definitely geared towards the liability and risk associated with that sidewalk mobility right now.
Mhm.
It's not geared towards the trees.
That's still helpful.
It's still,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Plus, I mean, but a lot of and I think you guys have already heard this from people. People on fixed income or don't have steady employment, those are the ones that are the most concerned about that. And they're very concerned about being sued by somebody who trips on their sidewalk. So it's very risk and averse and liability driven. Yeah.
I'd like to make a suggestion if I may. I'm really happy with this. It goes to city commission, and I think it'd be good if we hold on this to the next meeting and actually invite somebody from Public Works to be here.
Yeah.
Because I need something to go to the commission that really isn't supported by Public Works and have it torpedoed. Find out what concerns they have, if any, and how they can, there are concerns if we can mitigate this in some way. So that's a suggestion I would have.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Sure. See, we're going to be meeting again not until August because we're doing it every 2 months.
Okay, that gives us time then.
That's John Lewis's last month too.
We
Yes.
don't, he's retired.
Is he still relative because it's in many leaves?
Sorry.
He's retired from here, but I've been some retired.
Yeah, it seems well. Yeah, he's got a lot of years, and not just here, but elsewhere.
Oh,
And they're doing interviews for his replacement right now. So by the time August rolls around, there will be somebody, but we don't know if they're going to be an internal hire or an external hire. I think there are several internal candidates. So people are already looking at John's position that are familiar with this issue.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to have them provide it.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too.
We've been really lucky to have him and his predecessor, Nancy Crush, are great public people.
Yeah.
is it possible? I know we have every other month, but didn't we allow for like, if there's a time, like a special,
Yeah.
like John's leaving meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
Can we do that?
The committee wishes.
I mean, just if it's time sensitive, if there's other people who are familiar, it's
That's a really
the
good
issue
point.
then, but if there isn't,
I would expect John would love to come and give his 2 cents.
Graduated from his retirement. Or consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you all are amenable to breaking routine every second Wednesday every 2 months, that's fine with me. We just need to set a date. So is that something you all want to appreciate?
Do we need a vote for that, or is that something we could just?
I think just for formality's sake, yeah.
You can get a consensus on since we're all here.
Yeah, we can come in
And just a consensus.
either, so. Do we,
Yeah, like mid to late July or early August. I think mid to late July.
I'm here, I'm not going anywhere.
What did you say, John?
I'm going,
August 1st.
I'm leaving.
Well, I think it's through August.
Oh, it's through August.
Through the end of August.
I don't know that for sure, so July would probably be a safer.
All right. July. Yeah,
Should just look at dates.
it couldn't be the last week. I'm out of town.
Yeah.
So, maybe we just, I'll talk to Quillen and, see what we can figure out.
Okay.
Yeah, if we do a Wednesday, like Thursday, 24th.
Yeah. Well, that's incoming.
Oh, that's, okay, I didn't know you searched again. Okay.
23rd.
Then we have the 10th, 17th. Okay.
All right. Sometime before July 23rd. Yeah.
and then
If not soon.
we haven't all agreed that we'd be interested in doing that. Do we want to confirm that?
Yeah.
Are we all agreeable to meet again in July to hear John's or Public Works
Yeah.
input?
West Public Works input
Okay.
on this
Thank you.
recommendation.
I don't want to obligate the committee and no one.
Okay. Well, we'll email around and see what the best dates are.
Thank you.
All right.
Great, yeah, and would anyone be interested in doing a polish before we send it to Public Works? I'm happy to do it.
I guess the only thing, there was additional information I think provided as to how many trees, like the inventory of trees lost versus trees planted, and there's a difference of like,
That's a really good question.
like that's a relevant number, and I think, Aaron provided that, and that should make it clear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of just what information needs to be added on top of like just the final revision.
I'd like to speak to that because I feel like that, that was a piece of information I kind of got glommed onto but every year we have to report the number of trees removed and replaced and pruned as to the Arbor Day Foundation for the Tree City USA application. And it's a little bit of scrounging up information from parks, scrounging up information from Public Works, and then taking that information and compiling it and making it into one cohesive document for Arbor Day Foundation. So in any given year, those numbers are going to fluctuate. In general, more trees are replanted than removed, but it doesn't take into account the diameter or the species, the condition, or anything. It's very much a lump sum number. So just get that out.
Does it also include development removals?
It includes, I can tell you what it includes. It includes all of the street tree pruning, all of the trees that are planted for the Friends of Trees neighborhood plantings, development application removals. So that's on private property, both residential subdivisions that go through land use review and commercial.
So also include like municipal capital improvement projects?
Yes, yeah, capital improvements lumped in there as well, because if there's a capital project that affects a tree in the right of way, then a street tree permit's required. If it's a capital project that affects a tree on private property, like Malala Avenue, pedestrian improvements widened and took out some of the trees on the private property from the land that was dedicated for the additional road. So
And limit even on like
It's still like,
property, like,
it's an estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
It's not vetted on the ground in Tree City, USA. I mean, it's vetted, the individual permits at the time that they come in, you know, there's a lot of arborists reporting on that. But Tree City USA doesn't have the means to vet. Yeah.
that's.
So we
Gotcha.
compile that every year, and I've got it going back to 2013.
Out of curiosity, like, are you able to like see any trends, like looking back 10,
I've not done
years?
any trend analysis, and I'd love to be able to do that. I mean, I couldn't argue the statistical validity of that, but you know, you can chart it on a graph.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a great idea.
Or just even in terms of like
Which
which trees are lost to disease and like percentages. to
Yeah.
development, Or just to like get a more common story, sure. Like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Natural loss.
To see like the effect of things like the heat dome and the ice storm we had. Yeah, I think you'd see some pretty significant dumps due to those things. Yep.
I forgot to put in my hearing aids so you'll see me up in my ears.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How's the overall acoustics in here for you guys? Seems pretty good to me, better than over there.
So much better than I thought we were over there. Oh god, I wish we were like sitting closer together. It's just such a big vacant space. But
I'd like to make a suggestion for one of our future meetings. Our executive director of the Greater Oregon City Watershed Council made a presentation to the city commission. I'd like to invite him to make the presentation to this group. City commission didn't have any questions, but this group might. So, so at some future date.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's who is that?
He's
Mark?
Did we have somebody?
Yeah, we had someone remote in, and that was the gentleman I met at Clackamas Community College. Yeah.
That a different person?
yeah.
Is that Tom?
Yeah, Tom, that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a different person than the one you're referring
No, he's not. He's our executive director.
to? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll see you in person. Great. This is great, by the way. I really enjoyed this more than the last 4 years.
And I have to hear my children melt down and everything's fine. They're probably melting down right now.
Fun.
Okay, great.
Yeah, good one, Doug.
Sounds good. Anything else about the letter besides, I'm happy to keep workshopping it via email before having it ready for Public Works to review when you think they would want it, like within a week or. Try to turn it.
We'll take that one. Get that.
I'll fix the bullets. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Okay, thanks.
And the next up, communications. I don't have a whole lot.
Oh no, there's new business.
No, that's what we just covered.
The tree oh, okay, sorry.
But there was a decision to table to the next meeting.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Understood, sorry.
that's okay.
I thought I was talking about the IRA funding. I was completing with something. Okay. Communications.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, IRA funding is opening up. State funding and federal funding to do inventory, canopy analyses, any sort of kind of on the ground work is available. There are grant requirements to meet in order to be approved of those grants. But there's a number of ways that Oregon City can participate. There's an outfit called Planet Geo, which does tree canopy assessments, and they have crews that do inventory. So we wouldn't have to do it ourselves or have volunteers do it. They would be trained, like high productivity sort of crews that do it. But there's also like LiDAR based, the aerial laser imagery assessments that can be done from data imagery. That is also useful and informative to provide an assessment of current baseline canopy. And then we can use that to make decisions on policy, on implementation of policy, on where areas of Oregon City may need more focus and dedication of work or planting or anything like that. So having a baseline of what's out there is most useful in order to make an informed policy decision. So right now we don't have.
Yeah.
There's grant funding available to do that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be applications and proposals are accepted starting this month. June. It's June already.
Yeah,
So the application portal is opening up.
great. I know Tom Kissinger became new Parks and Cemetery Manager, replaced John. Is interested in the inventory of the parks. So it's kind of like Pratt. I don't know if he's talked to Pratt about it. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, he did express interest and has a lot of knowledge about that process from his experience in Marion County fires.
I'd like to say something about him. We had a small discussion, and the first thing he says to me, "Our parks have too much grass." So, I think he's trying to move on.
Yeah, he's been great. He's also doing the pollinated garden. He's got another one going. I forget where, but.
So I just don't want to see Oregon City miss an opportunity to do something really good.
Yeah.
If it's interested in doing it, there's funds available. And
What's the application window? Like when does it close in? It's opening this month, but when is it?
that's a good question. I would look at their portal. I haven't even looked at the portal.
Okay.
To be honest, because it's so new.
So this is like a new funding opportunity.
It's a new funding opportunity, but it has 5 years.
Okay,
So if you don't do it this year, you can do it next year.
okay,
It's not,
okay.
but it's a substantial amount of money.
Like, would it be enough if they did do like in grant?
We could put our proposal together and say like, we know how much it will cost Oregon City to do this sort of project. And we put the budget together and then we request that budget.
Would that be like something that we should like have Tom come and like do a collaboration and the public works also? Right?
And even other partners, so we don't have to do it alone. It doesn't have to be doing it by itself. If we have
Yes, one of the companies that the high efficiency connectivity.
Yeah, so like if we put together a project and we said we would want to hire a contractor to do the work, that's how a project ever grant funded projects. That's not unusual. Anyway, so we would put together, Oregon City, would put together a proposal, a project with listing all the components of the project, any partners, and then the budget. And then so
Sounds really cool.
Do you want to work that into your letter?
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because that's number one, right? Like
Mhm.
take stock. Yeah,
And so
yeah.
anyway, but yeah, that opens up this month. And it takes a lot to put a proposal together. And wouldn't do it unless the commission advised.
Yeah, I want, first we need to get support from parks support and public works. Kind of focusing on a particular area of the city, like see. And then once that support from those departments is pretty certain, then I think you would take it to city commission, because not just from the receiving, it's craft
Mhm.
and as well. But I don't want to attach a bunch of strings to it.
No,
I think it's an opportunity that's fast approaching, and it's
well, if we didn't do it this year, we could do it next year.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of time to get a project together,
Yeah,
but it's it's not infinite amount of time, and if other projects put in a proposal for a large ticket item, that can get approved. So we are competing with everybody else's projects, which could be, a couple $1 million. I mean, there are caps to what a project can be, so they're not gonna obligate all of the dollars in the first year necessarily. But they could, if everybody puts in project.
I'm just wondering, we have neighborhood associations that are, a little more motivated or organized, some more than others. And so, for example, McLaughlin is a 501c3 neighborhood association. Some of their membership is a little more interested in tree inventory idea, I think, just from thinking back in history. But, and then, that's a potential city
Project.
recognized group as well. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think maybe go to the CIC, like to solicit,
CIC,
just to kind of, reach everybody.
that's a great idea.
Could that inventory also include a designation of those trees as to whether they're native or not?
Yeah, that's what inventory does. It not only locates a tree, but it can identify the species, the general health of the tree, the size of the tree, and they can also mention who owns it, so if it's public or private, depending on where that tree. And what extent we want the inventory to do. So if we did all public jurisdiction, street tree, right of way, parks, city facilities, then the city would have jurisdiction with that grant to do that, unless any private property owners, or schools chipped in and participated.
I think it's great. It's needs to happen. It's the fundamental part of starting.
So also, the folks from Planet Geo are interested in presenting if we are interested. They can talk explicitly about that intersection and their assistance in developing a project.
Could they present to CIC?
They could do anything.
Because now we have a citizen involvement coordinator, Janice Schmidt, and she's going to come and speak to us at the next meeting as well. And there's a vehicle there for greater involvement, not just NRC, but CIC getting involved in this. And, like the Ivy pools.
She's been great.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, just let I can forward their information to you,
Sure.
and then
But it makes sense to have someone from Public Works and Parks here for that presentation also, like either, this one or the CIC.
Yes. And so Josh or John.
all right, well, I'll forward their information. And by the I have no relationship with these people. I don't know. I just know that they built the state's street tree inventory
Right.
platform.
Which is through ODF, right?
Yeah, Board of Department of Forestry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I helped them review proposals for that application that they manage. So that's when I first was introduced to them.
Mhm.
And that's through Oregon State Trees that I also sit on.
So
So I have no
what cities have
relationship
done
with
that?
them. Salem's done it, Portland's done it. LeGrand, know it.
Yeah. Well,
It's possible for a small community to do it,
Yeah.
but they also have an urban forester. So
Oh, LeGrand.
LeGrand,
Oh, wow.
they've got a tree for killing. And they can accept any sort of way of data collection, so if it's through Excel or like some mobile data collection device, they've got a lot of ways to collate it all. But a really cool feature that they have is also looking at Emerald Dashboard, anticipating when that comes in. By the way, they found it in Vancouver, BC this past year. And right now it's prime adult fly time. So if you're looking around the city at ash trees, that if they are invested, you should see adults
see
today.
now.
Today, now.
Yeah.
They have a calendar.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's expected that they start to emerge now. Peak season is in August.
So is that when you start seeing the exit holes? Okay. D-shaped exit hole.
Yeah.
That's
Lots of woodpecker activity.
so woodpecker and crown dive.
Ground dieback and lots of shoots coming up from the trunk. But that's like, a tree that's been invested for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you probably know all this stuff.
Yeah, exit holes, the first thing to be looking for are frass from those exit holes at the base of the tree
Yeah.
or in like crotches.
Okay. I'm press update our remote page.
And the other one is MLB. Do you want to?
ALB.
Mediterranean oak borer. It might be more,
Wilsonville got hit hard.
and they're just,
Down the street. Yeah.
so I'm
If we find any of these, a tree inventory will be done. And it'll be more expensive
Yep.
and probably more damaging in a lot of ways than if we can do it first.
Yeah.
well, yeah, and with an inventory, we at least could get FEMA assistance reimbursement for that as an emergency reimbursement. We couldn't do that if we don't have it.
Oh, just, I remember you sent out that email about that. Yeah, I looked it up and from what I can tell, like, there's not that much known about it, but it seems like cork oak is the one that it really likes, which is good because that's not native. I mean, cork oaks are beautiful, but we don't have that many. So I thought that was good news. All oaks are vulnerable, but it's not, it doesn't sound like it's necessarily that sensitive in the same way that Emerald Dashboard is, right? Or maybe, okay. What do you think, Sam?
Nobody knows much. Like, we know a lot about Emerald Dashboard because we've got a lot of history with it. And they've developed a lot of, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of experimentation that's gone around with Emerald Dashboard. MLB is so new.
Okay.
That nobody has any guidance.
What is it called?
Mediterranean oak borer.
Yeah.
I'll just be sitting upstairs.
And the white oaks in Wilsonville and runs very hard. Their council had to emergency ordinance. They brought on that natural area and just kept devastated. So,
So we're expecting two pests to come in and really make a dent. And it's not just, I care about trees, it's expensive. And removing a lot of trees all at once, managing all the wood all at once is very expensive, and it can really interfere with a lot of priorities.
because of the way it has to be disposed of, right?
If we can't move it, and stay on site, and for Emerald Ash, or you can chip it to a 1 inch, you might have more guidance on that.
Yeah, well, for Asian longhorn beetle, you can ship it to 1 by 1 chips, and you can't take them off site depending on the quarantine area. So, and that depends on how the flight pattern of that particular bug. But if they just find one, like you said, they would dispose of it on site, and then those chips have to go to burn. But from that site, they would create an area, and every tree in that area will be inventoried and inspected. And when they find one 100 yards or a mile away, now we have a new area there. And as that gets bigger, then eventually they would create a disposal center in the middle of that. All the wood would be brought in. But there's so many other things that it touches, like regular people can't move firewood anymore, which is a huge problem for our community. You know, we all have neighbors who go and cut firewood every season, and that would virtually stop. People whose livelihood is cutting that firewood and selling it like that would all have to stop. So catch it quick.
Yeah, and then like back east, when they found it, they weren't doing anything mitigate. They weren't trying to quarantine. They weren't trying to treat it because it was so new. They didn't have these protocols. So like volume of wood created problems, and they were sitting there for years because there's no way the city could manage it. So it's like having huge football fields full of wood, and then lots of dead trees, and lots of people being very mad and sad, complaining about it. So it's going to be on top of it. Are you ready?
I'm glad we're recording this.
It's a lot.
No, I mean, I would urge Kendall and John to do this section.
Right.
I think the question is what can we do, this body or even this city? And the first biggest thing is education. This is what it looks like. This is what you do if you see anything like this. And then making sure that we have resources to go follow up on those reports. Asian longhorn beetle sat undetected in Massachusetts for 15 years. It's crazy. People saw it, they just didn't know. And by the time that they did find it, you know, now it's a miles size quarantine, many miles, millions of trees.
Yeah, there's a lot of resources. The OSU extension has a pest detector course, webinar, and it's free. Arborists can get CEUs to take it. And for, there's lots of websites. ODF has a good website. And if they think they have observed it, there's a hotline to call. And that's, you can look it up on your phone or your computer, but it would be valuable to have it posted on our city website. So I think we have something on the website.
Yeah, we had links. Well, we did the dashboard, or I'm not sure. Yeah, we did put something together for the Mediterranean, but we didn't do the utility bill flyers. Yeah. So,
Well, it's peak season
it is peak season.
for the Emerald Ash Borer.
Okay.
So it'd be a good time.
Yeah, yeah. And we have the links to the recordings.
Yes.
Yeah, on the invasive line, we had a few code enforcement call-ins on tree of heaven. Some of them are tree of heaven, some of them are not. But code enforcement's been out and about. Wow, there's a tree of heaven in Kenema. There's about 50 inches in diameter.
That's a heritage tree.
And what I said,
I mean, it's probably 30 years old. That's what I mean.
yeah, exactly. It's not probably that old. You know, went out there and goodness, and next door, the neighbor came over and he's like, that tree sent up suckers into my yard and he's 100 feet away. So, and you have to kill it before you can remove it or chop it because you have to kill the root system. So I don't know. That seems another issue. It's not one that you can effectively deal with through code.
All right, well, any other communications items?
Well, and it's a bittersweet one for me because I'm afraid I didn't know, and this was back in March, but I wanted to recognize that Brian Boyce, who was a former Natural Resources Committee member who I greatly respected and admired and enjoyed hanging out with, passed away in March after a fairly long battle with diabetes. He was 73, and he was also instrumental in helping with the Clackamas River Basin Council, and helped out a lot with ivy pools and cleanups at Waterbrook Park, and was a really, really avid botanist and naturalist. And I think he was on the NRC for a good long time, 7 years. So I was shocked to hear of his passing. There was a really nice article in the March Oregon City News is quoting Jerry, and said that I just wanted to read this real quick. Boyce was an active member of the city's Natural Resources Committee and Two Rivers Neighborhood Association, which is that. Both of which he chaired. His guidance and striving for consensus at the meetings kept everyone working together, said fellow Clackamas County naturalist Jerry Herman. Everyone knew Brian for what he was, a genuine naturalist and the finest legacy of great men and women who cared about nature, people, and wildlife. Herman said, he's already missed and will continue to be so in the many communities that his prowess for nature, plants, and people served. I will miss him. Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, thanks, everybody.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if this communications exactly, but Tom at Parks applied. Him and I worked on an application for a Xerxes plant grant.
Yeah.
And this is for the pollinator garden down at the north side of the pool.
Okay, that's where I was trying to remember.
Yeah, there's like 200 feet. It's 200 feet by, I don't know, 20 or 30 feet. And the plan is to plant, we applied for the grant and we got the grant. It's 200 feet of hedgerow plus seed for that whole area. So it's a significant amount of plant material, and that's through the plants are available for pickup in Salem, I think in November. So it's like they're advising fall planting to make it easier for the seed species to germinate over winter. A nice opportunity to establish over the winter. But yeah, that's exciting. There's going to be educational signage down there.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds like the hedgerow is going to be to kind of like delineate the camp area where there's a lot of kids in the summer, and then to keep like the balls. I guess it's a hill, so it's a slope, and that'll make it easier for parks to maintain because currently they're handling that. So it's like an ideal location for a couple of reasons. But yeah, make it easier for parks to maintain, and it's a really public location. There's a lot of people who will see that space, and it's sunny. I mean, it's north facing, but there's no trees like within. I think there's like one big tree like on the south side, but it's a very sunny spot. Not a lot of shade there, so
Yeah, there's a lot of heritage trees in the too.
yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah. When the time comes, we'll be doing a one landscaping review just to get it through planning. That didn't take very long. Yeah. Good to know.
Any future agenda items or other comments?
Well, we wanted to establish a series of presentations at every meeting. We didn't this time, but we will be hearing from Hannah Schmidt, at our next meeting. She can come talk to us about the citizen involvement program and some of the natural resources work they're hoping to do the next couple of years and how they can coordinate better with NRC. So I'm really happy to have him on board. And also, she wanted just to make sure that everybody knew about the upcoming volunteer celebration at the Pioneer Community Center. And she's also asked for staff nominations for volunteer recognition. So I'll probably be submitting it. So have a thought.
I saw an email for it, and I was a little confused that they were asking for nominations. I think I've asked us for that.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out too. And
Like I had nominated fellow committee members.
yeah, exactly. So I will try to clarify that shortly and send out that. Yeah.
Are we going to hear from, Tom, from the Watershed Council, Greater Oregon City Watershed Council? Is that a presentation that's like on the?
You want to ask if we want to invite?
I'm invited to give, but you, I mean, you'll be able to pick it up, I think, at the, online once it's available. But,
Is he gonna come here? I think you, did you mention that he was gonna present here also though, or?
I'm suggesting we invite him to do so,
Oh, okay.
So we can.
and I can give the invitation.
Yeah, planned, yeah.
Okay. And invite John to come and speak to our.
I'll bring that around this meeting.
So that's a fair bit.
They're expected to have time.
All the bus are coming now.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any?
Yeah, I was just gonna say the invitation to Tom, probably, I would look at more probably towards the end of fall, so forth.
Okay.
He's involved in so many projects, but yeah, then he'll have the ability to tell you what we've done during the summer months as well. So that's just the kind of timeline. I think that would be a better time to do it, because he's extremely busy in the field now.
Right.
What are some of the projects you guys have this summer?
We have major projects going on Holcomb Creek. In fact, we're having a tour that we're giving to Metro people in terms of our project and potentially other projects of Holcomb Creek. Metro has near the headwaters of Holcomb Creek, apart, some of the wetlands are in there, but they purchased some property there. And one of the reasons they've done so is it provides a corridor from upland corridor between Abernathy Creek and the Clackamas River at that point. And so they've secured that land for that purpose. But it does come down into the headwaters of the Holcomb when we have a property over there that we're working with. We also have a shady project working with people that are in the city that the city sponsors those. But we've got we got several projects on Abernathy Creek. It looks like we might have some state funding coming into. Does everybody know Monopole Dam off of Henry C. Road? There's a probably goes back into the 60s. There's a development up there, housing development, and they wanted a recreation spot. Well, it's silting in, and also the fish passage system that was put in there was not adequate. We do get some fish up there, but they say that it's going to contribute something to improving it, but it's that's a short-term fix. It's going to be a very costly to do it. But we do have spring Chinook coal getting up there, but not very many. We do have lampreys throughout the Abernathy Creek. They count, when the state does inventories there, they find 300 and more reds every year. And so it has a lot of lamprey going into it.
Mhm. Well, the only thing I would add, sorry, but yeah, there was a presentation by the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde to the State Commission about the Tumwater project. And it was a really great work session. The elders from the tribe were there. And it was a good discussion, and everybody's really excited about the vision that that tribe has. And it's very much more geared towards healing and restoration of the site. So looking forward to seeing their master plan submitted fairly soon. Christina Robertson Gardner, the senior planner, will be the one working. It's going to take a long time to realize that vision, but as we get towards the falls, it becomes more natural, and a significant amount of material, concrete and otherwise, is going to have to be removed on that end of the site in order to see it happen.
Will any of those plans come to NRC?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to weigh in on that. It's going to be a master plan review. May take some time, but it's a planning commission decision. So you can, and you know, the tribe wants to engage with the community. So I will, try to make sure that any chance we have here from you. I just don't know a whole lot about it since the work session was 3 weeks ago. There's a lot in the air.
Oh, well, if there's any interest from the tribe side to visit with us, I'd be interested.
Okay.
The rest of the community.
Yeah, it's a really great presentation. There was a lot of, like, someone spoke on, like, just the language that they were using and, like, the history. And you might see, like, it sounded like basically there's been years and years of planning put into this, and now they're kind of like breaking ground. And you'll see the administrative building at the end of Main Street they're now beginning demolition of that. And so, yeah. So I feel like it was exciting. Like, it seems like there's so much momentum for this project and so much support, like, in every kind of pocket of Oregon City for it. So, yeah, it was just like they presented like just kind of a very unified vision for it. And it sounds like, a lot of concrete is going to be removed. There's a lot of, I forget what kind of rock, but like it goes out over the water and it's just like all concreted now, and that's going to come off, and there's going to be restoration and habitat kind of like right on the water, which is nice. It's not just going to be like buildings up to the very, as far to the water as they can. So yeah, sounds like a great project.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, it's 8:01. Is there anything else before we adjourn?
Quick question. 6:30, we might